And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. In 1910, the Canadian Pacific Railway purchased the land that became the community of Vanguard from Latimer Young. The origin of the name Vanguard may be attributed to it having been on the vanguard of the railway in 1912. On today's Open Connection, a retired Columbia Cellulose worker recalls his early days in BC.
I was born a mile from Vanguard, Saskatchewan. That's a small town of probably about 150 people, but they had a hospital there. And we lived on a farm about 15 miles from Vanguard. And it was a rainy day, and Dad had to put the chains on, and Mother couldn't wait. And I was born in the 1925 Model T, which was brand new, and I was brand new.
And the back seat.
Yeah, I guess it was the back seat. I can't remember. Originally, I come from Saskatchewan. I was born and raised in Vanguard, Saskatchewan. Well, I came out west to go to work in construction in 1952, and I wound up in Terrace in 1954, being rock trucks and at the Kenny Dam, and I worked at Calgary at Spray Lakes Dam. It was a brand new road into the Nitchaco Dam from Vanderhoof. They bulldozed the road through there, and I was on a service truck to service the cats and stuff. And they had it covered up in the back with a tarp. And I went through that, and there was trees coming down, and it was ripped that tarp all to pieces when I got to the end. But that's where I stayed. They had a little camp there, and we serviced it. And that's how the road went to the dam. Mm-hmm. On construction at the Kenny Dam, I was getting $1.88 an hour, and I thought that was great money. I worked at different things before I started with working for Columbia Cell. I worked for the Beavers Logging Company. That was two brothers. Oh yes, they changed an awful lot. But they were all off-highway trucks that we drove at cellulose. They were up to 16-foot bunks on them, and they were Hazes. We drove Kenworth, Max, Hazes, and Pacifics. But they were. I enjoyed the work. It was a good-paying job, and I liked working for the company. There were some people we knew before I came here that I met. Them were calls, and got to know them. And he was a trucker, so we visited with them, and we got down to where I decided I'd go to work for Columbia Cellulose. So I signed on, and before that I worked for LH&K Sawmill out at 17 Mile on East Calum Road. And that year it was, in March, it was 30 below zero.
30 below?
Yes, in March. Jeez. It was a real cold winter. And I was working in a sawmill there. It was cold, and they had big 45-gallon drums for heaters, for wood, big long chunks of wood in there, and that's how they heated bunkhouses. The trucks that I was driving at Columbia Cellulose, had good heaters, especially later ones. When I think back now, I was setting chokers for a while on the high leads and behind cats for a few months, and then I got to get on the truck when they had one available for me. So that was the start of the hauling logs and trucks.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The Columbia Cellulose Company Limited was established under the name of the Port Edward Development Company Limited in 1946 by the Cellulose Company of America to produce high-alpha wood pulp. The name was changed to the Port Edward Cellulose Company Limited in 1947, was finally changed to its present name in 1948. Let us return to the conversation with Ivar Bristol.
Because it was year-round work, and we had a home here. We started out living out at Thornhills in Terrace. Had a little shack there, and I finally built a 3-bedroom house.
You built it?
I did myself, yes. In fact, I went out and saw it yesterday. It was an experience, yeah. And I got a lot of tips from people that I worked with that had built homes, and so I got a lot of pointers. But I did most of the work myself, except for the electrical and things like that. It was 2 houses, the first one and the last one.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was quite an experience. I think it took 7-8 years.
Yeah.
As I could afford it.
You didn't want to rush into it?
No, well, I couldn't, because I could only afford so much at a time.
To the woods?
We were driving out to the woods and hauling the logs down to the reload, and the machines would unload them onto cars down to reload.
Okay.
Rail cars, and we'd head back to the bush for another load. And I remember up at the Nass, when we were hauling up there were ravens flying by the window. And I'd heard this story that they were feeding them. We'd be driving along at 30 miles an hour, and when that black thing went by the window, we knew they were hungry. So I'd reach over in the lunch bucket with a sandwich like this, and it would take it right out of my hand. And even up the mountains, we went up and we got goats once in a while. A fellow by the name of Eric Stoffer and I used to go up goat hunting. Yeah, I got together with a few of them the other day, and we had a real nice visit together, talking over old time logging and whatnot, and I really enjoyed it. We had lots of games and scary things, but it was all in good humor. Like one fellow by the name of Albert Graff, he would stand there waiting to get his truck loaded, and we'd be sitting waiting for him to be loaded, and I'd sneak up behind him, and I had a long beard. I took my cap off, and I come up from behind him and growled at him, and he jumped. He didn't know what it was. It scared the heck out of him. And then everybody else that were looking on, they were laughing. And this is Ron Hartnell. And it had 14-foot bunks, I think it was. And the stakes were probably about 5-6 feet high.
Yeah.
And we hauled some pretty good loads on them.
One was
A 4-speed transmission and auxiliary. That was a West Coaster logging truck. And it was an International with a straight 6 gas engine.
a straight set.
Hall Scott was, I think it was a British-made engine. And it had twin ignition. They went about 2 miles to the gallon. Their top speed was 30 miles an hour, but they were real powerful. They hauled a good load, as you can see there.
Did it get scary around 30 miles an hour in this?
No,
No?
that was a pretty slow speed, actually.
Yeah. It looks like a...
Oh, that's a Hayes truck. They got V12 engines, Jimmies. They used to call them Jimmies. V12 Jimmies, and had automatic transmission, 6-speed automatic transmission, and they were real nice to drive. Smooth air seat ride. When they had the Ritchie brothers here and fixed up all the machinery and sold it, and the workers that had the most, that after we were laid off, that had the most seniority, I think there was around 100 of us, got the money from the sale of these. I got $21,000.
As a bonus, huh?
Yeah, it was nice. And I put it into RSPs, what they call the donkeys. That's a yarder for the high leads out in the woods. They'd have a big spar tree. Set up a spar tree. It would be, I don't know, probably 100 feet high, and cables bracing it up, and that would haul in the logs. They had big cable spools on it, and this is how they transported them. One truck going ahead and one backing up, because it was too big to haul on our low beds.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. In 1923, Harry Kent and Edgar Worthington came together to tackle what thought was an unsolvable problem. To help Pacific Northwest loggers as they struggled to haul heavy loads down tight, rugged, muddy logging roads. By walking in those loggers' muddy boots, driving those slippery, winding mountain roads, they produced a truck as rugged and as dependable as the loggers themselves. Let us return the conversation with Ivar.
And that's a Kenworth that I was driving. A wrapper, it's a steel cable that we used to throw around the load. Oh, this is a high lead, what they call the high lead, and that's a loader in the back with a grapple. And that's Kip Gravel run a Lima, a grapple, and he's taking wood out of the shames, the White Bottom. I forget the name of that river down at White Bottom, but we hauled, it's out west, on the way to Prince Rupert, out to Shames. And then they were taking logs out of the river that had been boomed there, and we hauled them to the reload down to Shames. And there it was loaded onto rail cars and shipped to Prince Rupert. I retired when I was 60, and that was in 1985. Furnace, but we didn't have air conditioning, of course. They don't need it up here. But no, it was a oil furnace. When they first started making the road across the lava bed, I was the first truck to go over that road when the cat pushed a road right in the lava bed. And I was the first first truck to haul some logs across there.
Wow.
And that was called the Grease Trail, where the natives traded Hooligan oil as to a different
They bartered.
But I restored a 1927 coupe, and the crankshaft out of that 1925 and the rods are in that Model T. When I fixed it all up and I restored it, now it sits in a new Ford garage in Okotoks, Alberta. But I drove it for 33 years after I restored it. It took me 17 years. I brought it up from Saskatchewan in 1963, And it was completely restored in 1980. And I sold it in 2013. So I drove it for 33 years, and it was just like new.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't drive it very far, but just to...
You were driving that, though.
Yeah. I was driving it to Penticton here and had it in the mall there a couple of different times.
Good.
And drove it to it in parades. So had lots of fun with it. We grew up on the farm, and we were mechanically minded, and we worked on tractors and combine engines and stuff like that. So we had lots of our own training.
Good.
It's good. Wonderful. Just briefly,
No, it's okay.
So when Columbia Cell came to Terrace in 1948, there weren't many people then, maybe 500 to 800 people, maybe at the most.
Yeah.
Now, when you came, about how many people were here? Yeah, roughly, or you mean? What was?
I should know. It was probably about 10,000. Yeah. I think it was the whole area, like Thornhill and everything. It was right around 10,000. Yeah, I joined the Elks in 1957. And I'm a life member. I'm the last one on the...
Charter member?
Charter member. I'm the last charter member. And there was about a little over 100 people that joined at once. So here I am yet.
At 91 years old.
91 years old.
That's so wonderful.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
She moved to Florida State, where golf took her through her university days and onto the Pro Tour in 1984. Her victories came in 1992 and 1993, when she won back-to-back Hawaiian Opens, and then again in 1998, when she won the Oldsmobile Classic. In this final segment of Open Connection, we open our archives to Prince Rupert's First Lady of Golf, Lisa Walthers.
The 20-year-old from Prince Rupert is the defending BC Women's Amateur Golf Champion, and winning is nothing new to her.
I got started by going out and caddying for my parents on Saturday mornings, and eventually they'd let us hit a shot or two. And when we really enjoyed that, they got us clubs, and my brother and I, and we started playing.
How old were you when that started?
10.
When did you first play your first competitive round?
I think I was 10 years old then, too. It was the first year we started golfing. It was just a small local tournament here.
Do you remember what you shot?
No, but it wasn't too good.
When was the first time you won?
That tournament, there was only 2 girls in it, and they always had a girls' flight for us.
Oh, okay. When was the first time you won anything outside of the local area?
1977, I won the BC Junior Girls' Championship.
Where was that?
That was in Vancouver.
And from there?
From there, other local tournaments like in Terrace and Smithers and around there. But after that, the only other major tournament I've won was the BC Ladies last year and this year.
What was the toughest part about winning again this year, repeating as champion?
Well, I kind of felt the pressure was on because I wanted to prove last year wasn't just lucky. I wanted to make it into the finals, and then when I did that, I was happy just to be there. I didn't want to lose, but, winning was just, another little treat after getting there.
And this year the tough part was?
Getting there. The semifinal match was very tough.
What was the toughest part about the match?
It was just that it was so close the whole way, and every shot counted. You never got to let up anywhere.
Lisa doesn't have the long winter layoff like most Canadian golfers. She's entering her junior year at Florida State University's golf program. The Florida State team is one of the top-ranked clubs playing in the tough, very competitive National Collegiate Athletic Association in the States.
Getting to play every day in practice, a lot of practice, and I went and saw a pro down there when I was at school. Like our coach, he doesn't give us lessons too often, and I went to see a pro that's helps this girl on our team, and that just helped me immensely. You know, it really got me together. It gave me more confidence.
Was that the part of the game that was missing before this year?
Probably a little bit. When I got around the greens, that's where I felt the pressure, and there was no confidence there. Didn't help me too much.
So putting you would call your weak link.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your strong point?
Driving, off the tee.
And from there, how's your intermediate game?
It's kind of average, but this last tournament, the BC Amateur, it was really good, and you know that made the difference.
Now you spoke of playing every day and training every day. What's your average training day like between tournaments?
Well, I wouldn't say we train every day, but usually, you know, I have classes till noon or 1 o'clock, and then right from there head out to the golf course and probably hit balls for a few hours, maybe play 9 holes, maybe, it varies every day. It makes it difficult, for academically, but if you work at it, you can always catch up and you don't miss too much.
You're majoring in education. Is your future going to be as a teacher or as a golfer?
I hope it's as a golfer. I'm losing interest in wanting to become a teacher, but I don't know yet. I couldn't swear by anything.
Any ambitions of either the CPGA Tour or the LPGA Tour?
Oh, I'd love to play the LPGA Tour.
Anything more on that?
No, I just, I'm quite a ways away from that yet. I really am going to have to improve a lot if I ever want to make it there. I'm going to have to practice a lot harder than I have been too.
What's the area that you have to work on the most?
Everything. Absolutely everything. Probably more than anything my short game now. Chipping and putting.
Canadian golfers, as a rule, haven't had much luck on the American Pro Golf Tours. It could be different for Lisa Young. She represents a new generation of competitive Canadian golfer, and it's quite likely that in 2 years from now, when she finishes her commitments at Florida State and finishes her education, that the Northwest will have a new rooting interest in professional golf. If it all goes well in this area, you could be hearing the name Lisa Young winning some of the major pro tournaments.
6 good friends from Smithers, BC. 6 construction workers, actually, who until last week depended on a paycheck. $15 million.
3, 22, 31. I didn't have to look at the rest. I knew I won. Now I must have jumped and jumped and jumped. My wife doesn't believe me because I'm a little bit full of poop and vinegar the rest of the time.
Believe it or not, the Smithers winners say not much is going to change for them. But this morning, Frederick Poirier had a modest proposal.
You proposed to your girlfriend?
Yep.
Yeah.
After the lottery went.
Yeah.
She accepted. Last night?
No, it's today.
Today?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
You betcha.
And what about the question everyone asks lottery winners? Are you going back to work?
Just after we won, we had a little meeting and we said, there's no way a bunch of hard workers like us are going to let our hands get as soft as our butts.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.